Welcome into Seahawks Today. I'm your host, Will Ortner, and we have trade rumors galore from multiple insiders in the NFL on today's episode. Will your Seahawks make a move? Because we are getting really freaking close to that NFL trade deadline, which comes up tomorrow. I'm in Dallas, so Central Time, it'll be at 3 p.m. It'll be 4 Eastern Time if you're on the East Coast, or if you're on the West Coast, it'll be 1 Mountain Time, 2 o'clock. I want you to predict, though, before we get into this. Go into your crystal ball, look into the future. Do you believe that the Seahawks will make a trade by tomorrow's NFL trade deadline? Type yes if you think they will. Type no if you think they won't down below in the comments. Now, I told you early on that multiple NFL insiders had Seahawks intel. And what I found the most fascinating between all of these insiders was it was a little bit different. One had trade targets that Seattle could be trading away for. One had, hey, the Seahawks are calling a lot of teams. They're being super aggressive. What does that mean? And then you had one insider basically say the Seahawks are really good, so of course they'll go and be a buyer at the trade deadline. We're going to get into all three of those, but first I definitely want to look at Adam Schefter's report. Now, obviously, Adam Schefter is probably the most in the know when it comes to NFL stories and what trades could be happening. Now, Adam Schefter reported that teams have reached out to the Seattle Seahawks about outside linebacker Boye Mafe and cornerback Riq Woolen. Now, both of these players have heard some rumors. Riq Woolen, obviously more so, Boye Mafe coming on as of late. And they are clearly on the trading block for the Seahawks. But how much would they be worth, and would Seattle be willing to move on from them? Right now, I think you see two players with a lot of upside. That's why teams are calling the Seattle Seahawks. They're both young, Riq Woolen and Boye Mafe, still on their first contracts. They are guys that could continue to progress forward in a team's defense, in a system, especially with Riq Woolen, that is more suited to his talents than what's going on in Seattle. First, I want to look at what Schefter had to say about Boye Mafe, where he says Mafe, who turns 27 later on this month, he recorded 15 sacks in the past 2 seasons. So he's clearly shown that he can be a really good player for your Seattle Seahawks. Then you could look at Riq Woolen. Riq Woolen, while this year might be a bit of a down year for him, you can look at his 2022 season, his rookie year. He was, in my opinion, the defensive rookie of the year that year. It shouldn't have gone to Sauce Gardner. And yes, each year he's gone slightly downwards, but that is because Mike Macdonald runs more of a zone scheme. Riq Woolen is more of a man corner. He is a player that does better when he's matched up against someone and is running stride for stride for them. Now, I will say that his last 2 games have been better, but it's clear to me that both players have a ton of upside. Obviously, Mafe hasn't had the production in the sacks this year as he had in previous years, but he's still winning his pass rush sets at a high rate. So he's getting into the backfield. He's just not finishing. He's not getting the sacks, the tackles for a loss. So it then leads to the question, well, if they have all these upside and these other teams want them, well, why would Seattle be open to trading them? They have so many different options. If these players are good, well, hey, they might not fit quite into the system that McDonald has, but maybe you adjust the system a little bit for either one of them. If there's an injury, maybe you see more of an expansion for a guy like Boye Mafe. Maybe it turns into something else. Schefter did go in and point out something that I really hadn't thought about here in a little bit. The Seahawks have some big contracts to pay in their future. Wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, offensive tackle Charles Cross, and cornerback Devin Witherspoon. You're not going to be able to afford to pay everyone. This makes sense, right? I would rather pay Devin Witherspoon, Charles Cross, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, obviously, than pay Riq Woolen or Boye Mafe, 2 guys who are in the final year of their contract. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think that Seattle wants to trade either player, especially Woolen, after all the different injuries that we've seen in that cornerback room. Schefter had this to say where he basically reiterates what my opinion was going into it. Seattle hasn't wanted to trade Mafe or Woolen according to sources, but it will be interesting to see how aggressive another team might be ahead of Tuesday's NFL trade deadline. What does this all mean? It means the Seahawks are posturing. We know from Brady Henderson's Twitter that John Schneider was at the Indiana-Maryland game. He was talking to other teams. There are conversations about trade rumors. But he doesn't necessarily want to give up Mafe or Woolen. Maybe there's a chance you can bring Mafe back after his contract's up. Maybe there's a chance you bring Woolen back. But right now, for both of these players, especially for Woolen, you still have quality NFL players. Woolen is a quality NFL starter. And so if you have some injury issues or you see a Josh Jobe take a step back, he might miss some time. He's going into concussion protocol potentially. Devin Witherspoon has missed time this year. So you may need Riq Woolen more so than you can get in the value of whatever you get back in a trade. With Boye Mafe's situation, you're one injury away from Uchenna Nwosu, a guy who has been hurt throughout his entire career, from getting significant playing time out of Mafe. Right now, half the reason Mafe hasn't played a ton is because of how well Nwosu's been playing. So I think right now that Seattle is going to hang on to both of them. Be honest, though. Do you want the Seahawks to trade Woolen, or do you want them to trade Mafe? I've gone through my opinion. I think that you hang on to them. I don't think that you move on. I think that they stay. Maybe you have a different opinion. Go down below and give me your reasons why to trade or not to trade. We're going to get into some more of the NFL trade rumors here in just a minute, but I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on any 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your picks are right, you could cash in. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are overhyped? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. I have a 2-pick power play for the action tonight. George Pickens more on his receiving yards. Jacoby Brissett less on his pass yards. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. My fellow bald companion here, Jay Glazer, had a report yesterday morning that the Seahawks are going to be aggressive in trade talks. And it sounds like that already. I mentioned Brady Henderson's post, and he said that the front office, John Schneider and crew, they were at the Maryland-Indiana game. They were having questions. They were talking to other teams, seeing if they could make a trade. And now I wonder, and I think it's totally possible, that Schneider could pull off another big move. He's been known around the trade deadline to make these inconspicuous trades, these moves that maybe you might not expect to be a big deal, or you might not expect the Seahawks to even be a part of, that turn out to be a big deal for this franchise, not just in the short term, but in the long term, because we know that is what is most important to John Schneider and to Mike Macdonald, your Seattle Seahawks head coach. But no one was really expecting the Seahawks to go and make a move for Leonard Williams. No one was expecting Seattle to make that trade. And Leonard Williams has come in and been the best defensive lineman that you've had since making the move for him. He's been a huge difference maker for you, and he continues to be a huge difference maker for you this year. Ernest Jones was not a name that I was hearing be linked to Seattle all that much. He's come in and he completely changed that defense. He is your middle linebacker. He is the captain of that crew. He's got the green dot. He's making all the calls. Those are 2 moves that no one expected that have paid huge dividends for your Seahawks over the last couple of years. At this point, with all the rumors, all the noise, everything that we've heard about your Seattle Seahawks, I think that a move is going to be made. I believe that someone will get a call, and I will be waking up doing a video on your Seattle Seahawks. Even Jordan Schultz, who, by the way, still mad at your dad for stealing the Sonics from us, had this to say. I don't know what it is yet, but the hashtag Seahawks are for real. And I get the sense that they've got something up their sleeve before Tuesday's trade deadline. They're going for it. So Jay Glazer, an NFL insider, and Jordan Schultz, an NFL insider, are saying the Seahawks are going to be aggressive and they are going to make a move. I think that they will. But at the same time, I still think that they hang on to Mafe or to Woolen, or at least hang on to Woolen. That's going to be the big key for me. I cannot wait to see what the Seahawks do and who they go out and who they get. Follow me on social media at Will Ortner on Twitter and on Instagram. If you're following me there, you are going to get instant updates as soon as a trade goes through. As soon as I hear the news, I'm going to fire off a tweet. There will be a video that gets posted on Instagram, and then I'll immediately get to the channel here on Seahawks Today and do a long-form video where we're breaking down the ins and outs of that trade or all of the trades that your Seattle Seahawks make. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a crazy next 36 hours or so as we near that NFL trade deadline. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.